Hello, friends. Welcome to Module 3. The focus of Module 3 is about the digestive physiology of insects. In a weird way, you are what you eat. And if you have a look at this very simplified graph, you'll notice that a good number of species, over 50% of insect species, are herbivorous, right? So plant material. Let me just quickly get my laser pointer on. Yeah, you can see here, right? 50% or more of insects are herbivorous. And if we look at the distribution of orders that are herbivorous, there actually aren't very many orders that are herbivorous. So there must have been a very huge radiation of species that are herbivorous, and it's become clearly a very, very successful diet of choice. So you've got your earwigs here, right? You've got your diptera, your flies. So you are probably familiar that, in some cases, the larval form, like your maggots, might be carnivorous, but when they turn into their adult form, you might be familiar with the sort of dabbing mouthpart structures of flies. That would be when they are herbivorous. But of course, there are many, many different flies, including fruit flies, that are purely herbivorous. Your Lepidoptera are similar, only this time the young and the adult phase both consume plants, but they consume different plant parts and in some cases different plant species, because some are generalists, some are specialists. But it's important to realize that for most Lepidoptera, the young are invest in a chewing strategy, and then the adults generally having a proboscis to lap up some of the liquid food source from flowers. So we would typically regard these as herbivores as well. Now, your Hymenoptera, of course, your bees are herbivorous because they consume nectar as well. They lap it up. And in the case of your wasp, some of the larval wasps might be carnivorous, but again, the adults generally also feed on pollen or nectar. Your Hemiptera, which are your true bugs, have invested in a slightly different strategy where the mouth part is turned into a stylet, and the stylet is used to puncture through the outer part of the plant and bypass the largely physical defenses to tap into the phloem or the xylem fluids. And there are phloem specialists and there are xylem specialists. And then needless to say, your Orthoptera, so those are your grasshoppers, your locusts that have invested in a chewing mouthpart to break through a lot of tough plant material. So those tend to be generalists. And you can see in this little diagram here, the percentage of that order which are herbivorous. So you can see that almost 100% of your Lepidoptera and your Orthopterans are herbivorous. Almost all of your Hemiptera are herbivorous, knowing that some true bugs are, like your assassin bugs, not herbivorous. And then you have a few others, but collectively, you have about 50% of all species that are herbivorous. You'll notice here the absence of Coleoptera, your beetles, and some are herbivorous, but not a huge amount of them. And we would typically be looking at scavengers for a lot of your beetles. So this is why this module is focused on digestive physiology. You will spend 3.2 going through the basic elements of feeding and some of the key types of mouth parts. Then let's look at the gut. You're probably familiar that we break down the insect gut into the foregut, the midgut, and the hindgut. And these all have very, very different functions and processes. We won't be able to go through every single one in too much detail, but there are a few key points I'd like you to get out of it. We talk a little bit about nutrition, and in the case of specialists, how they overcome some challenges associated with a biased diet. And then finally, we end the module with excretion and water balance, right? Your ability to consume it's also important that you are able to excrete.